Welcome to Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. Got another good show lined up for you this week, and I know you'll think so after viewing it. It's a clip show, our best of. For all the guests we've had, we've got some fantastic interviews. If you've missed them the first time they aired, we're going to rerun them for you tonight. And also, if you have seen them, enjoy them again. So thanks for tuning in. I know you'll enjoy it. And here we go with Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara.
When you're a farmer, there's a lot of things you can't control. But there is a way to give your soybeans an early advantage. Mershman Seeds soybean seed treatment featuring Turpidity ST. An independent analysis has proven faster and more even emergence every time. Just look at the Mershman difference. Give your crop the boost it needs for a uniform stand. For the best yields, grow with us. Mershman Seeds.
Hi, I'm Joel from Tice Chevrolet. We've lived through some very interesting times the last few months. Ensuring everyone's safety is more important than ever. That is why we are participating in the Chevy Clean program. At your request, we will pick up your vehicle, service it, and return it after we've cleaned it using the current CDC guidelines. This is just another way to work towards exceeding your expectations. So give us a call and let us show you what it means to be part of the Tice Automotive family.
Farming makes a positive difference in my life. I love to take care of the yards and the flowers in the garden, but I also like the opportunity that I have now that I can get in the combine and help when they need that. During the fall, one of the main things that I take care of is hauling grain to the elevator or hauling it here onto the farm and getting it in the bins. Women in general just have more opportunities that they can show their strengths today on the farm.
Welcome back to Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara, and always pleased to have this guy join us. As you see him on the screen here, he's James Vandenberg, the former Iowa Hawkeye quarterback, now with RBC Wealth Management, CorridoreInvestmentGroup.com. He and Bill Happel Jr. do a great job of handling finances. Got the quarterback and the wide receiver. First and foremost, as always, James, thanks for joining us. And secondly, I'm going to start off with you this way this week with a huge crow, you're eating some crow today. You asked me last week, you're like, I don't really want to pick a Super Bowl winner. You do it for me, Dave. And I said, okay, I'm going Buccaneers. And immediately you just didn't even pause. I'm going Chiefs. Well, James, as the great Jim Carrey said in Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, man, am I tired of being right all the time? I got that one. How can you go against Tom Brady? I got to ask.
Oh, God. Well, I wasn't going against Tom Brady. I was going against you. The Hawkeyes weren't on board. We got two Hawkeyes on each team, so it's irrelevant. So I was just going to pick the other side of the coin from you. What would the fun be if I picked the Bucs?
Exactly. You wanted to be a contrarian, but I can still do this. One for me over you. I got one on a former Hawkeye quarterback, but it was fun. Though, I got to tell you, James, in talking to you on and off the air, and we brought in Joe Mershman in our predictions and everybody else, Jeff Horner. But it was fun for the fact, like you said, it was hard to have a tiebreaker because you had two former Hawkeyes as Chiefs and Ben Neiman and Anthony Hitchens, and two former Hawkeyes with the Buccaneers in Tristan Wirfs and Anthony Nelson. So now, Hitchens had a big play, pass breakup in the end zone with a tackle-eligible play. That was cool. Neiman had a couple of nice tackles. But I tell you, Anthony Nelson looked good on defense a few times and put some pressure on Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs on defense for the Buccaneers. But yes, the Bucs defense played great, James, and pressured Mahomes. But you got to give it to that Tampa Bay offensive line and Tristan Wirfs. Leonard Fournette and Jones were able to run. They were running downhill the whole game, James.
Yeah, no, the Bucs dominated the majority of that game in almost all the phases. They had a good game plan. I mean, as we said off air, I think the Chiefs not having their tackles, having a lineman shuffle going into the Super Bowl is not ideal. Not that that's going to be an excuse they'll use, but I know how that goes, and there's definitely some nuances there. But no, the Buccaneers deserve hats off. I read something on Tristan Wirfs that basically said he hadn't given up a penalty since the fifth game this year or something. The guy's playing an incredible rookie or not, and he really is only a rookie. So pretty cool for those guys.
Yeah, and the interesting thing to your point there, James, is that they grade out players at each position. And Wirfs was at like 91.7%. He graded out either the highest or at or near the top of the highest of all the players in the games at his position, almost a 92% grade out. Not too shabby, as you mentioned, for a rookie. And in the biggest game of all time a year ago, he's playing with the Hawkeyes, and now he's playing in the biggest game of each year. Only 54 previous games, 55 total Super Bowls. Tristan Wirfs chooses to have one of his biggest and best games when the lights are the brightest.
Yeah, no, and I think it goes back. We talked about him a couple weeks ago. I think he probably is just going to keep getting better and better and better. He's so physically gifted that every rep he gets is going to make him better, and he's got the right mindset. So I have a feeling we're going to continue to see his trajectory just keep going up.
Yeah, and especially you get the acclaim and the fame of protecting Tom Brady. And unfortunately, the only time you're going to get your name mentioned is if you get a holding penalty or Brady gets sacked on your side. But in this case, he and his offensive mates are getting some great attention, and deservedly so. But I'll mention this to you, and you said this off the air, and I want you to bring this on the air for the viewers as well. When you talk about Patrick Mahomes and being chased around all game, and they weren't using it as an excuse, but the flux and the problems they've had in the offensive line with injuries and illness and that type of thing with the Chiefs. And Mahomes, as we record this on Tuesday afternoon, Patrick Mahomes is getting his turf toe operated on today, although he moved around well in the game. Man, some of the passing angles he had to make and the throws he had to make, as a quarterback, when you're running for your life, you don't want that to happen, especially in a Super Bowl.
Every QB becomes human when you get pressure. You just do. There's a reason defenses talk about getting people off their spot. When you're in rhythm and you're in the spot and the ball comes out on time, it just clicks better. He never had that in that game. Yeah. It seemed like even when he kind of had a shred of time, it was like as soon as he let go of the ball, there's a hand. Changing a throwing window. It just give a lot of credit to the Bucs defense. They had a good game plan in general, but from personal experience, just having played the position and just having watched a lot of quarterbacks, the great equalizer for quarterbacks is pressure. And I thought he hung in there, and I thought he even made some throws that could have been caught. He could have been bailed out, but the Chiefs just as a team didn't play that good. There was that series where they had a drop pass, then a long punt that got called back, and then they shank the punt, then they pick it off, but it's a penalty. Then they hold him to fourth down, they kick a field goal, but then there's another penalty, and then Brady throws a touchdown. And it's just like, okay, you're not going to beat Tom Brady when you have that sequence of 10 plays. And that's just kind of how the game went.
Yeah, they let way too many opportunities slip by, and as you mentioned, key opportunities. And a few times when the Chiefs got close, they're used to getting third down conversions. They didn't, so they settled for 3 field goals. But, it's interesting, and 2 in the first half, but it's interesting that 31-9 victory over the Buccaneers, over the Chiefs, as you and I have discussed. It is great to see, and we'll see other Hawkeyes hopefully getting in the NFL this next year in 2021 going into the draft. But I want to mention to you before I say our goodbyes for this week, I can't begin to say thank you enough, James, for the 15 straight weeks you've joined me, almost 4 full months. Does it seem that long? It went quick. Because, initially we were going to do 8-10 weeks during the football season, and this has really morphed into, I've really enjoyed the conversations, getting great viewer feedback about you as to what you're up to today and what your playing career was at Iowa, and it's been really great for me and the viewers, but I hope it's been enjoyable for you as well.
Yeah, you forced me to become not only a college analyst, but now a pro analyst. I'm just... My commentating career is on a high trajectory like Wirf's, but no, I've enjoyed it. 15. I was going to guess 9, but
good to hear.
No, I've enjoyed it, and I'm glad to be a part of this.
Yeah, and I'm glad to hear you said 9 instead of 15 instead of, it seemed like 30. But what I'm alluding to is you and I have talked to off the air, and I want the viewers to know that Ike Boettger is going to join us next week, and then throughout the weeks, the Buffalo Bill now, current offensive lineman, but formerly of the Hawkeyes in Cedar Falls, Iowa. But Ike is going to bring a lot of his friends on in the offseason here, as well as a guy you know very well, Rick Stanzi, who helps train Ike in the offseason, and a former Hawkeye quarterback, but also Josie Jewell from my home area. Josie from Decorah, but I'm from the Postville Castelia area. But then also we'll have Parker Hesse from Walk-On, again in my neighboring area of Northeast Iowa. So a lot of former Hawkeyes going to be upcoming with Ike. But James, as I mentioned to you off the air, and I want the viewers to know, you're still going to join me off and on during the offseason here as we catch up with former Hawkeyes. Going to have the Major League Baseball some Major League Baseball players that are from around the Cedar Rapids and Iowa area that either played at Iowa or are from Iowa. Got a lot of basketball players, former Hawkeyes to catch up with as well. But then next football season, so besides you joining me sporadically in the offseason, definitely can't wait to have you back on the regular once we get back to camp, and then in August with the Hawks getting ready to kick off, and then we'll have you back all through the regular season again next year. Can't wait for it, my friend.
Hey, that sounds good, Dave. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, thank you, and as am I and the viewers.
One word means more to farmers than any other: yield. Nobody knows this better than your friend in the field, Merschman Seeds. With industry-leading seed treatments like Turpidity ST, you'll see faster emergence and more bushels per acre. Become a part of the Merschman family and see the difference in your field. Merschman Seeds.
Hi, I'm Joel from Tice Automotive Family. We're living through some of the most interesting and challenging times many of us have ever seen. Knowing who you can rely on is more important than ever. Many of us turn to our families to get us through, and the same holds true here. From our fair, upfront pricing to exceptional service after the sale, we truly want to exceed your expectations. So give us a call or stop by and let us show you what it means to be part of the Tice Automotive family.
There is a spot for women in agriculture. There's many places for females, for female farmers. We can do a lot. Over the years, maybe we couldn't have always done everything, but there's lots of places we're finding on our dairy farm especially that females are really good at milking cows. They're really good caretakers. They're good at taking care of animals and observant and detail-oriented, which fits in well on a farm and can make an operation more successful.
Welcome back to Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. And as you can see on the screen, I've located my buddy James Moses. James back for week 2 to join us and talk some Hawkeyes. As you can see, James is in sunny Florida on spring break with his wife Peg and kids. And his son just finished in the state basketball tournament last week for the state of Iowa at Des Moines Dowling Catholic. He's at spring training, as you can see, for the Tampa Bay Rays. His nephew, Michael Wacha, pitcher formerly of the St. Louis Cardinals and formerly of Iowa, but now Texarkana, Arkansas, Texas, on the Texas side of the border, I guess, down there. But it's great to see you again, James, and you're in a little brighter, bluer territory than you were last week, my friend. How you doing?
Oh, man, doing great. Loving this weather, loving all the different things that we are able to be a part of, and just came from the game, and now get a chance to talk with you a little Hawkeye basketball. So life's good. Life's going good.
You and I were on radio together last week with our buddy Doug Wagner on WMT Radio and did a March Madness selection show. So let's get to it right away. And hey, by the way, for future reference, I'm going to sit and talk with you and your wife Peg, and we're going to see if we can get Michael Wacha on the show at some time, again with Michael's Iowa roots. And your wife is from my home area. I'm up from Postville, Castelia, and your wife is from the Cresco area, Lourdes, and a little north of Decorah. So we're all in that same neighborhood. So we got to catch up at some time with Michael. But we got to get to more for the immediate future, the more important business, James, as we talked about on that selection show together last Sunday. The Hawks are the number 2 seed in the West region. Oh, by the way, Gonzaga is there as number 1. You've got KU at number 3, University of Kansas. Then you've got Virginia at number 4. Pretty nice little bracket lined up. Oh, by the way, the Hawks' first round game, and it tips at 5:30 on Saturday afternoon, 5:30 Central Time. They'll play Grand Canyon University. Formerly Dan Marley was the head coach there, former NBA great. Now Bryce Drew is a former, and I guess you'd still say current, March Madness legend when he made that big three-pointer to win their opening game when he played at Valpo. So what do you know about Grand Canyon? What do you think about the Hawks selection as the number 2 seed in the West region?
Well, I remember when Dan Marley was their coach, and then they had some change. And if I know Marley, because I used to admire his play, because he loved to shoot the ball, and he played with so much passion for the Phoenix Suns. What I know is that those guys, they just play hard. They're good shooters. And they may have a big that potentially could, create some problems and stuff. So those are the type of teams that you never want to underestimate, because March Madness. But with our Iowa Hawkeyes and getting the number 2 seed and having a little bit of opportunity to play in Indianapolis from the Big Ten tournament, to have a little bit more familiarity, I'm just looking at them to be ready to go, kind of like the start of track or at the Kentucky Derby. As soon as they kick it off, I'm just looking for the Hawkeyes to get ready and give Grand Canyon Antelopes the business.
There you go, the Antelopes, well stated. And you take a look at the Hawks. It was much ballyhooed, and we talked about it last week. And Fran McCaffrey has talked about it. He is the players packed for a 4-week trip, and they plan on being in Indiana for a while. As you mentioned, they had the unfortunate loss to Illinois after beating Wisconsin for the third time this year. Third time in about 3 weeks, 2.5 weeks, they beat Wisconsin, at Iowa City, and then the neutral site at the Big Ten tournament last week. Tough game last week against Illinois. Illinois, a number 1 seed, Ohio State, 2 seeds, Michigan, another number 1 seed. So as we take a look at this going into this, and I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about other teams, I want to talk about the Hawkeyes. But what are your thoughts about, and there were 9 teams as you predicted, 9 of the 14 Big Ten teams made the big dance, made the tournament, and then Indiana didn't make it, and of course fired Coach Miller, and they're looking for a coach. But of the 9 teams that made it, you get the Hawks again at number 2, Ohio State at number 2, then Michigan, and as I mentioned, Illinois. What happened in your eyes last week when they lost to Illinois in the Big Ten tournament?
When they lost to Illinois, I thought that they just they ran into some guards that the guard play where our defense was maybe not as good as we wanted it to be. Illinois creates some problems just because of those athletic and skilled guards. And then they got Big Kofi in the middle, who's like I call Baby Shaq, and they just created some issues. But when you look at the number of teams that got into the tournament, we got 9. I was hoping for 10, but as you said, Indiana didn't, and I think the school officials thought that they should have, but didn't. So that was why Coach Miller was released, and now they're on the search to find somebody. But it's still a good representation of the Big Ten to have 9 of the Big Ten people to be placed into the tournament.
Well stated. And, we talked about you being in Des Moines now, and your son, they had a great run to the state tournament, but that Waukee team loaded with Hawkeye recruits won the state title. But great experience for you and your family and your son, and now you're enjoying Florida. James Moses, as you can see, joining me. And James, former Hawkeye, shooting great. And, James, there's a little bit of news going around Des Moines in the next last couple of days. With Drake being in the tournament, they're going to have that play-in game against Wichita State. And then, of course, just a little north of Des Moines and Ames, Iowa State and Steve Prohm have parted ways. But again, I don't want to talk about other teams. Let's get back to the Hawkeyes. Wanted to mention those quick footnotes to you. But just to mention this, James, in your experience playing in March Madness, and you came into a great situation when you visited Iowa, and they had that great run when they played against UNLV, and you were visiting at the time, and then you ended up going to Iowa, and you made a big dance 3 of your 4 years. Talk about your experience coming to Iowa and then playing in the big dance March Madness during your playing days in the late 80s, early 90s at Iowa.
Coming to Iowa was a treat because I just knew when Tom Davis took over the helm from George Raveling, who went to SC. It was just, still that loyal part of me to want to be a part of Iowa since Tom Davis gave me my first offer when I was in the 7th grade when he was at Stanford. So I got a chance to see Iowa lose that game against UNLV, who was one of my other recruits with Jerry Tarkanian, and saw when they lost up in Seattle, but got a chance to see the Hawkeyes play at Pauley Pavilion, and for them to beat UNLV to go to the Sweet 16. So that was exciting because I got a chance to spend time with the players. And then I got a chance because my mom and dad had a big old Ford Econoline van. So I got a chance to take a lot of the players and have their first experience at Fat Burgers, which was a great time. And I got a chance to show them what a real California burger is all about. But we had a great time. My experience in the tournament, when I came as a freshman, we lost to Jim Valvano at North Carolina State. They had Chucky Brown, Chris Corciani, as well as Rodney Monroe. Rodney Monroe had 41 points, but most of those points came into the second half as we lost in double overtime. And Rhode Island, Providence. It's Providence, Rhode Island. And so it's just one of those things that sucked my freshman year. My sophomore year, it was just a bad year for the Hawkeyes. That 90, not the 90, but the 89-90 season. But then we end up coming back 90-91, went to the Metrodome, played East Tennessee State. If you remember, they had Mr. Jennings. Mr. Jennings was, just a very talented player, but we were able to shut him down. And then we end up matching up against Duke. And if you remember Duke at that time, they were able to qualify and meet UNLV in the championship, and they were able to, beat them with Grant Hill and Christian Laettner and Bobby Hurley, and just a plethora of talent that Duke had at that time. And then my senior year, we played in Greensboro, in Duke's hometown, and I don't know how we got them scheduled on our NCAA schedule again. But hey, it was what it was. We beat Texas in the first round, and that was an exciting game. And I got a chance to be close to a triple double. I had, I think, 23 points, 16 rebounds, and 8 assists. Yep. We played against Tom Penders, and then we faced Duke. And people probably have seen a lot of the media attention that game had against Duke, because that was when Bobby Hurley confronted Christian Laettner, because Christian Laettner had one of his worst first half, and we had a great chance. But whatever Bobby said to Christian, they came back out and played better, and they were able to prevail, and that led to the infamous shot at the Spectrum when Christian Laettner hit that last-second shot after Sean Woods from Kentucky hit the shot beforehand, and what we still celebrate, Duke still celebrate today.
Exactly. Great recollections going down memory lane with you. And yeah, I remember that huge game. You almost had the triple-double. And man, Duke was on a roll those years, as we all know. And some people don't like that very much, as you mentioned, and they beat you and beat Hawkeye fans. But yeah, a lot of the basketball world still not fans of Duke. But I got to say this to you, James, in closing, in the last couple of minutes I have with you for this week in this segment. Much was made about Fran McCaffery in the offseason. Is it going to be the Fran fade? How's the team going to look coming down the stretch? Is Luka going to be tired? Well, Luka just is probably going to be the player of the year, should be, Naismith Award winner. He was first-team All-American and was named the player of the year and various other services so far in circles. What do you think about Fran's new extension? They locked up Fran for a few more years, at least for the next 7 or 8 years contractually. As we mentioned, Iowa State moving on from their coach and Steve Prohm. Iowa locking down Fran McCaffery for more years. Your thoughts?
I think it was a great investment for Iowa to do that with Fran. I think he was able to, keep the team where they are at during a tumultuous time. And, there was some backlash, and there was some growth. And as we know through life, there's lots of adversity, but he was able to still maintain it. And despite this pandemic, he's able to keep the team focused. And look at us, he was able to have Luka Garza come back. He was able to have Wieskamp, able to get Jordan Bohannon, which was his base. And he's done a great job. And so I see Fran as a good investment for Iowa going forward. And I still believe that he has, the tools and be able to recruit the tools that Iowa will need to continue its success.
James, thank you so much for carving out time for us. Looking forward to catching up with you very soon down the road. And go Hawks, my friend, as you always say to me.
Hey, Dave, thank you. Thank you, producers. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. We had this pandemic that slowed everything down, and we didn't have spring training, let alone an NCAA tournament. And to be able to have that into the forefront, I just feel like it's Christmas, man. And I'm getting some toys, because last year we got some coals in our socks. You know what I mean?
Yes, that's right. Christmas in March, my friend. Hey, James, thank you so much. Thanks again for tuning in to our clip show with Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. The best of the best. Man, we've got some great interviews and some great folks joining us. So I'm glad you got to see that for the first time or watch it again for a second or third time. Love to have you viewing the show. And thanks again to our advertisers and sponsors who make this show possible. And thanks to you for tuning in. So for Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara, that's all from me. Thanks to all of you.